Alrighty, let's get this show on the road. Welcome everyone to the Matthew Isakowitz Fellowship Program digital info session. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, and we're gonna get right into it. So in this session, we're gonna be covering the following: an overview of the program, the requirements for the application timeline, and then following that, we will have an extended Q&A with a panel of Matt Fellow alumni, and we're going to go through and introduce ourselves now. So hi, my name is Josh Ingersoll. I'm the recruitment chair for the Matthew Isakowitz Fellowship Program. I was a Matt Fellow in 2019, and my host company was OneWeb Satellites down at Cape Canaveral. I currently work for the Aerospace Corporation in Chantilly, Virginia as a spacecraft systems engineer. And I hold both a bachelor's and a master's in aerospace engineering from Georgia Tech. Currently, I'm both working as the recruitment chair for the Matt Fellowship, my day job, and I'm also pursuing an MBA and a master's in space policy from George Washington University. You can find me on Twitter. There's my Twitter handle if you really want to see what I'm up to, but we'll have more contact info at the end.
Hi everyone, my name is Maya Nafde. I am one of the recruitment vice chairs for the fellowship program. I graduated from Princeton in June with a major in mechanical and aerospace engineering and minors in robotics and in French. I was with Josh as a fellow in the class of 2019, and I was an intern at Virgin Galactic. Luckily enough, they invited me back full time, and I now work as an associate mechanical operations engineer at BG.
Hey everyone, my name is Eric Hinterman. I am the other vice recruitment chair on the MIFP team. I went to Notre Dame undergrad for a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. And then after a short stint in the chemical industry, I actually decided that space was the place to be. And so I returned to get my PhD in aerospace engineering at MIT. So I'm currently in my 5th year of the PhD and just actually got back from my host internship at Blue Origin this past summer. I was a fellow this past year, so it just ended.
Hey everyone, I'm Nina Arcot, and I'll be helping out with the Q&A panel after the presentation. So I also just graduated from Princeton in June, majored in mechanical and aerospace engineering as well, with a minor in material science. And I was also one of the 2019 fellows. I was at Axion Systems in Boston.
Okay, so let's get into it. First, a brief overview on the fellowship program itself. The main purpose of this fellowship program is to inspire the next generation of leaders in the commercial space industry. There's 4 main components to it, and we're going to talk about these all in a little bit more detail, but they're all really great parts of the fellowship. The first is a paid internship, so you'll get matched with a host company, kind of like we've been saying, and you'll do a summer internship at that company. The second part of it is mentorship. So you actually get paired with an industry executive, an astronaut, a professor, some person like that has a pivotal role in the commercial space industry, and they serve as your mentor, which is really great. Another part is the summit. So all the fellows come together at the end of the summer during your fellowship year. And you get to network with one another. You get behind the scenes tours of different companies, the host companies. And it's just really a great event to bring everyone together. And then finally, networking is a really big part of this fellowship. I already mentioned you get an executive mentor, you get to meet all the other fellows, and you get to intern at a host company. So building your network within the commercial space industry is really productive. It'll open up some doors for you. And at the same time, it helps you get to know the other people that have the same passions as you. Okay, so we want to take a few minutes to talk about the inspiration for this program, Matthew. This program was created in memory of Matthew Isakowitz. He really was an incredible person in the commercial space industry and in life in general. And so I want to talk a little bit about his past and why this fellowship was founded in his honor. So real quick, just a bit about Matthew. He went to Thomas Jefferson High School for science and technology, and his interest in space was already being exercised in high school. He actually served on the X Prize Foundation during the flight of Spaceship One, which some of you might know was the first privately piloted spacecraft. Then Matthew went to college. He went to Princeton, and during that time, he worked on NASA's New Horizons mission, which we all know flew by Pluto a few years ago. So he worked at the Applied Physics Lab for that. He also did a couple of really interesting and good internships. He worked on human space travel at Space Adventures, and he also worked at SpaceX on the Dragon capsule. You can see a picture there of him with Elon Musk. After he finished his degree, he really took off in the commercial space industry. And so he began his career as the Associate Director of the Commercial Spaceflight Federation, which, if you haven't heard of it, it contributed to the transformation of the commercial spaceflight industry and really was pivotal for companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic to get off the ground. And after that, Matthew continued to work on his dream of pushing humanity's frontiers forward. He worked as both an entrepreneur and an engineer at Planetary Resources and at Astronis. Like I said, Matthew went to Princeton undergrad. He graduated summa cum laude in mechanical and aerospace engineering. There really wasn't much that Matthew couldn't excel at. He also got a master's degree in international science and technology policy from George Washington University after that. And just some of these pictures that are up here, I want to walk through them. The first is a signed picture from Buzz Aldrin, on the moon to Matthew. The second one is a picture of him at X Prize. Of course, the next one is with Elon Musk. And then the last one is him enjoying a zero gravity flight. Despite all these amazing accomplishments and the way that he pushed the industry forward with the short time that he had in it, the first thing that people always tell me about Matthew was his personality. He was a really warm, really compassionate, very generous person who was always trying to inspire others and look out for others. And so this fellowship is not only about moving the spaceflight industry forward, it's about developing leaders that will embody Matthew's spirit and his generosity and really try and follow in line with his character. Okay, to build off of that, I want to read this out. It's a quote from Peter Diamandis, who's the founder of the X Prize, which is now one of the host companies for this fellowship. And it's about Matthew. He said, "Matthew reminds me of myself, someone who early in life identified space as their primary passion, someone who was always asking how we can do more and go faster. It was because of Matthew and his passion that the X Prize actually got the attention of NASA, a sequence of events that led to the creation of NASA's Centennial Challenges. Rather than choose the traditional path, Matthew lived the space entrepreneur's dream, a path that would ultimately bring him back into my life, where he interned at both Space Adventures and Planetary Resources. It would be an honor and pleasure for me to host young space entrepreneurs with Matthew's level of passion and dedication." And so, you know, this is a note from somebody that's involved with the MIFP program, but it really embodies what all the executive mentors and host companies are looking for. They know that if you're selected as a Matthew Isakowitz Fellow, you're going to embody those traits that Matthew had. And so, you know, they want to help people like that and get them into the industry so that they can make an impact. All right, let's talk some logistics. This is a brief overview on the eligibility for the fellowship program. So at the time that you apply, you need to be at least a college junior. So college junior, college senior, or graduate students are eligible to apply. You should be looking to pursue a career in the commercial spaceflight industry. And commercial space is a pretty broad term, but basically it means entrepreneurship or working in the spaceflight industry where you're enabling or improving products that can survive without solely relying on government funding to be viable. In other terms, it basically means you're trying to make an impact in the space industry with new business practices, new products, etc., to help open up the space frontier. You need to have already earned or be in the process of earning an engineering or science degree. This third bullet here, I've already touched on this a few times, but the fellowship program is looking for people that have a diversity in experiences and interests that will help you become better leaders in the industry. So, you know, well-rounded people tend to have skills that also play a factor apart from academics in their success. And then finally, you do have to be a US citizen or US permanent resident. The reason for that is the host company and that summer internship is a really pivotal part of this fellowship program. And the host companies have export control regulations where you need to be a US citizen or permanent resident.
All right, so these next few slides are going to flesh out those 4 components that Eric discussed earlier. So the first is, of course, the internship. That's sort of the meat and potatoes of the fellowship. So as a fellow, you get paired with a company in the commercial spaceflight industry. This is a list of the host companies from this past summer. There is some change year to year. This is a new industries and companies have really good times, really bad times. So there's a little bit of change between the exact list of companies from year to year, but there are also some companies that have interns every year. Virgin Galactic has interns every year. And so you get placed at a host company as one of their interns and get to have a standard 12-week internship there.
Yeah, and it's you'll notice that on this list there's a very large variety in the types and sizes of companies. Like right in the middle next to each other, you have SpaceX and Astronis. One that has a couple hundred employees and one that has 5,000. So there's definitely a variety of different experiences you can have depending on what host company you end up getting matched with.
Yeah. And so then the second component is executive mentorship. So as a fellow, you get placed at a host company, but you also get assigned an executive mentor. So my executive mentor was Karina Dries. She's in the second row. And she worked at the spaceport where I had my internship. So we got lunch a few times, and she gave me her advice whenever there was something that I was stressed out about at work. She would help me with it. And this is a really great way to sort of build a one-on-one relationship with leaders in the field who have extensive experience in the industry and who really want to sort of give you their advice, give you their input, and be a resource for you to succeed in this internship and going forward. So this is, I think, one of the most valuable parts of the fellowship, to be able to have someone who is so knowledgeable kind of on hand to help you when you need it.
Yeah, my executive mentor was John Gedmark. He's he was very busy this past year, so he wasn't a mentor for the class of 2020, but he was the founder and CEO of Astronis, which is a small startup looking to put a ESPA-sized satellite in GEO for communications, specifically for different parts of the globe. But it was really cool to be reading a book called The Space Barons that almost all of the fellows have read, about about Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and what the work they've done in the past 20 years, and see like, oh, John Gedmark showed up as part of the Commercial Spaceflight Federation, like in my book, and then I had a call with him later that day. So it was the executive mentor it's definitely a really cool way to learn a lot from somebody who's been around the block a few times. Eric, who was your executive mentor?
My mentor was George Whitesides, who was the CEO of Virgin Galactic. Now has the coolest title of everyone.
Chief Space Officer of Virgin Galactic.
He's now the Chief Space Officer of Virgin Galactic, and he's amazing. I could pick up the phone and call him right now. He made that very clear that whenever I want to talk, I can just call his cell phone, which is still hard to wrap my head around because I know he's got like 20 meetings every day, but he takes this program very seriously and makes it a priority, which is amazing.
Nina, who was your executive mentor?
Mine was Casey Gerst. She worked at DARPA doing some stuff with like getting small businesses kind of off the road, using some of DARPA's resources. So definitely cool to be able to have dinner with her and just talk to her about what she's working on, what her experience has been She's worked at a few different types of companies in her career in the aerospace industry. So definitely really cool to be able to learn from her and things that she wishes had gone differently.
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of to touch, I want to, sorry, just go back for a
You're
minute.
good, you're good. Keep going.
I want to just highlight something that Eric said, that George made him feel like it was a priority to be a mentor. I think that's something that sort of permeates the mentorship program in general. The executive mentors do this on a volunteer basis. And so they decide to do it because it's something that they're really passionate about. And I think the opportunity as a college junior, senior, grad student, someone who hasn't started their career yet, to have someone sort of at your disposal who's so willing to be there for you when you need it is like remarkable.
Like it's almost like having a personal advocate. It's really cool.
Yeah, so we love the mentors. That's the conclusion. All right, so the third component of the fellowship program that we discussed was the summit. For the classes of 2018 and 2019, that summit was in person. So for 3 days, they brought all of the fellows to LA, and we toured a few different facilities, met some really cool people, including Buzz Aldrin on the left and Elon Musk on the right. And we were able to just get to know each other better, bond as a class, and then also the summit sort of culminated with this big dinner where they invited sort of leaders from all over the industry, and it was just like a wonderful experience. The people who come to that dinner and the people who you meet at the summit sort of do vary year to year. So I'm not promising that everyone gets to meet Buzz Aldrin, but it's still a fantastic experience regardless. I want to read out this quote from Buzz Aldrin. He said, "Very impressed with the extraordinary individuals selected for the Matthew Isakowitz Fellowship Program. It's a quality program with an inspirational legacy, connecting fellows in the exciting field of commercial spaceflight." And that's exactly the experience we had. I think that all of us left this fellowship feeling much closer to, left the summit, feeling really close to each other. And like I personally felt very fortunate to have been brought to all these like-minded people who are passionate about the same things I were and value the same things that I did. And that's something that I think is really special about this summit that we get to experience as fellows.
I think, yeah, we'll get into more what happened this summer, but I think my biggest takeaway from the fellowship was how human the other fellows are. I felt walking into the summit, all I had seen of the other 24 fellows in my class were their LinkedIn profiles, and I had so much imposter syndrome that at the hotel bar, I pretended to have work to do on my computer so I didn't have to go talk to the rest of the class. Sorry, Maya. But by the end of those 3 days, like I had a new space fam. So lots of very active group chats and memes and the like. But it's a really, really cool weekend. Alrighty. Maya, do you want to talk about the virtual summit?
Sorry, there was a big lag. It just.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. So this past summer, because of the coronavirus, we weren't able to have a summit in person, unfortunately. So instead, the fellowship program put together a virtual summit, which was a series of speakers who are all leaders in the industry who were sharing about their experiences, their advice, sort of just giving a bunch of different talks. And that happened over the course of the summer. And then the summer was sort of capped off by a virtual reunion where all 3 years of the fellowship got together on Zoom and we had a little reunion, which was really lovely.
Yeah, this was a really awesome part. I was in this fellowship class, so we didn't get the actual summit, but man, every single week it was another powerhouse of the space industry calling in just to talk to like the 25 of us for an hour. And it was amazing. Every single one of these talks was really great.
And hopefully going forward for next year, we'll be able to have an in-person summit for the class of 2021 and then also something in person for the class of 2020.
Yeah, Eric, I need to meet you in person.
All right. And then we touched on this a little bit throughout this presentation, but definitely one of the biggest components that sort of stays with you after your internship is done is the network that you build. So I think everyone who does this fellowship, everyone who's selected, is incredibly passionate about the commercial space industry, and it's a really big driver to be around people like that. And the flip side is that you get exposed to, just from the weekend, you get exposed to so many different resources and people who, when you say that you were a fellow or you're associated with this program, are so willing to help you and so interested to see what you're doing and where you're going. And it's really incredible, the doors that this fellowship opens.
I've spoken about this a few times over the past week or so. If you go on the social media page, you can see a few alumni fellows did an interview with Beth Mund on a podcast last week. But I said that of the 4 components of the fellowship, this network is definitely like an order of magnitude greater than anything else, than the other 3. Like, internship is amazing, objectively, but relatively, this network is nothing short of insane. You meet so many people that are doing so many different things in the industry, and you have their personal numbers. You become friends with them. It's I'm going to quote a 2018 Matt fellow, Cindy Dolan. It's basically like getting commercial space superpowers. The Matt Fellow Network is really cannot be understated, or cannot be overstated.
And we also like hang out and stuff. We did like a happy hour last week. It's like,
yeah, we had happy hour last week. We played Among Us on Sunday night. That was fun.
We had fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so pictured here are all of the alumni of the Matthew Isakowitz Fellowship Program from all 3 years. There are currently 79 alumni, and the program is growing and getting more popular, and we, as part of the Matthew Isakowitz Fellowship Program team, are super excited to see where it goes this year and in the years to come, and how our galaxy of stars continues to grow. We're super excited about it.
And then one thing to note is the class size, according to the administrative team, for this coming year will be somewhere between 25-ish and 30. 30 is about the ceiling of the number of fellows that they're willing to take, and that the exact number of fellows year to year is a function of basically what host companies, what opportunities there are out there for host companies, and the quality of the applications. So it's varied between 24 and 30 over the past 3 years. Alrighty. So, in the words of a 2020 Matt Fellow, this experience is everything a fledgling aerospace wannabe and diehard space nerd could ever want. You're simultaneously placed in a challenging, exciting work environment with an industry mentor and a community of passionate, diverse peers that amplify and extend your own excitement about the world of commercial spaceflight. Applying for this fellowship is the first step in a process that could radically change the course of your career, building your network to new levels and providing a unique insight into the industry straight from the mouth of industry leaders. This fellowship gave me a position on the ground floor of a blossoming company and built my network to include industry founders. The MIFP team will work tirelessly to make this experience everything you want. Apply. And that's from Max Newport, who is a 2020 fellow. So I hope you're hyped up to apply after that wonderful quote. So we're going to talk a bit about what the timeline looks like for the application process. So our application opened on September 8th, 2020, and it is due on Friday, November 13th, 2020. I think the exact time is 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard. So you'll have to make sure that you get all of your final essays done, your letters of recommendation done, and fill out the application form on the website. Hopefully a good chunk of time before that. The requirement is that you're a current student, so we know that this is not the most important thing that you have going on this semester. So make sure you give yourself a little bit of a buffer of time. And then after the applications are received, the selection team looks over them and extends an offer of interviews for the most highly qualified candidates. There's 2 separate rounds of interviews. The first one is a 30-minute talk, or 30-ish minute talk with the selection team. It's a cultural, like behavioral type interview to make sure that you're not only like qualified, but you've got the right fit for the type of people that the fellowship is looking to accept. And then if you move on from that round, you're put into a pool of finalists that are offered up to the different host companies. And the host companies will pick a couple finalists each, and you will be, if you get matched, you will have a final technical interview with the host company themselves. It's a little bit backwards compared to most internships where you have a technical then a behavioral. It's behavioral then technical. But if you end up being selected by the host company, you'll be notified sometime in January-ish that you have been accepted as a MAT Fellow for the class of 2021. You'll jump up and down and cheer, and it'll be a great time. And then you'll spend the spring getting ready for your fellowship summer. Internships start May, June-ish, and then the summer culminates with the summit, either hopefully in person in July, and then after that you will join the alumni. So you although you're a fellow of a certain year, you're in it for life, for better or for worse. So let's talk next steps before we get into the Q&A. And I hope that y'all have been, you guys have been asking questions and upvoting. The more active you are with upvoting different questions, the less of a time bias there'll be of like questions that were asked at the beginning versus at the end. So go ahead, ask whatever you want, upvote things that you would like to have answered, because we'll just go in order from the top. So go on the website after this info session and verify your eligibility. Remember, you have to be pursuing or have earned an engineering or a science degree, and you have to be at the time of application at least a 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year, yada, yada, undergrad, or a graduate student pursuing either a master's degree or a PhD. And then I would highly recommend, if you're planning on applying, which you all should, to reach out to prospective people that you would like to write a letter of recommendation for you, and make sure that they understand when the due dates are, and so you're not putting undue stress on them to recommend you. And then start thinking about the essay questions. There's 3 different essay prompts of varying lengths. They're all pretty well spelled out on the website. Even if you're not going to write a full draft, just jot down thoughts and give yourself time to write out the essay and revise and edit over and over again. And then if you need support, reach out. Apply at MatthewFellowship.org. We'll be able to answer any specific questions that you have that we're not able to get to in the Q&A. And then this is on here twice, but that's because it's very important. Make sure you reach out for support. At Matt Fellowship on most social medias, or hashtag Matt Fellowship on almost all social media platforms. You will get noticed by either the social media team or people on the recruitment team or alumni that check the hashtag pretty often, and you'll be able to get in contact with people that can give you support for the application. So with that, we're going to move into the Q&A. Just going to scroll through the questions and I'll pose them, because I think y'all can't see the questions, can you, Eric and Maya and Nina?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. All right. I'll just do rapid fire real quick, or at least the first one. I think last year we had 138 applications. So some of you might be thinking like, wow, that doesn't seem like a whole ton. I would suspect like hundreds and maybe even 1,000 applications. The program is quite new. There's only 3 classes of alumni, and it's before this year has been a lot of word of mouth through these larger aerospace schools. So you got like Princeton, MIT, Stanford, Georgia Tech, CU Boulder, and moving forward, we're trying to make sure that people that are not at these top 10 schools understand that they are just as eligible for this program. It doesn't take spending a lot of money and going to a prestigious school to be passionate about commercial space. So yeah, so it's about 140 last year. I suspect it'll be higher this year, but yeah, that's what it was.
That answers the fourth or fifth question down too. You notice that the panelists are from high profile schools.
Oh yeah, cool.
Like Josh said, we're really making an effort to branch out.
Let's see. Yeah, so high profile schools, it's definitely just because of word of mouth. Like I personally applied for the fellowship because I have a friend who was on my senior design team who was a 2018 fellow, was like, hey, you should apply for this. And so it was just word of mouth, just being at that specific university. Okay, go back to the top. Eric, Maya, or Nina, do you want to answer how you feel like you can stand out on the application?
Yeah, I can answer this one. I think the biggest thing is just like, this isn't a fellowship for people who are passionate about the commercial space industry. So if that's something you're passionate about, like, communicate it. And I find that when people are passionate about things, it tends to come through in the way they talk. And so don't be afraid to talk about the things you're interested in. I think like when we talk about inspiring the next generation of leaders, it's people who are really passionate and then people who are really genuine. And so there's no like, oh, say X, Y, and Z and you're in. It's not like that. I think as long as you're able to convey what it is that you're passionate about and what you feel strongly about, I think that's probably the best that you can do for yourself. And anyone else can give your 2 cents there as well, but that's mine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Maya said. And also one thing that I really liked about this application process is that they're really trying to get to know you and like who you are as a person, why you're excited about space. So don't be afraid to let that come through. There isn't really anything formulaic that they're looking for in the application.
And then I gave this spiel last week, but it's definitely like you have to be passionate, and one of the eligibility requirements was showing that you have some sort of idea what you want to do in industry. Like the fellowship is for upper level undergrads as well as graduate students, people that have given some thought as to where specifically in the industry they would like to work and where they think they could make an impact. So just you've given some thought to where you'd like to be after school. And that is definitely a way to stand out. Alrighty, answered that. As previous Matt Fellows, what was your biggest takeaway from the whole experience?
I can chime in here. My thought going into the fellowship was that all 4 parts, we talked about the networking, the mentorship, the internship, and the summit sounded great, but I was most excited about the internship because you actually get to go work for a company. I got to say, after the fellowship, now that I finished the year, the internship was awesome. I'm not taking away from it, but that was like the least important part to me. The mentorship was fantastic, and getting to know all the other fellows, even just getting involved with the Isakowitz family and seeing how passionate they are about this program and how much they want us to succeed were invaluable. So my biggest takeaway is don't sleep on the other parts of the application if you're just excited about the internship. They have a big impact to change your life.
Alrighty. Maya, do you want to talk about it, or Nina?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead, Nina.
All right. Yeah, another cool thing I really appreciated was just being able to learn so much about all of the host companies. There are a lot of them, including Axion, where I had my internship, that I did not know existed before being a Matt Fellow. And so yeah, just being able to learn so much more about the industry and what's out there and what's being worked on was super cool.
And then what I recommend to a lot of people that I talk about the program is apply for the fellowship. Definitely make sure that you're putting your best foot forward with your application. But also, like Nina said, if you go to the host companies, a lot of them offer internships outside of the fellowship. So if you're interested in working in commercial space and you didn't know Altia Space Machines existed, they definitely take like a few interns every summer. So I'd highly recommend you go and look at the companies both in and out of the Matt Fellowship program. Okay, answer live, done. So typical acceptance rate, we gave the number earlier, and you can see sort of how many fellows there are per class, so you can sort of put it together. I would just make sure that you're put your best foot forward, edit your essays, get some good letters of rec, and really make sure your passion shines through with all parts of your application. Alrighty, what were your technical interviews like?
I think this varies super widely from company to company.
Yeah.
I kind of, I'll speak to my experiences. My technical interview as an intern at BG was, I would say, maybe a little bit like on the less involved side of that spectrum. We talked about a few different technical things, but I was stressed before my technical interview. I was nervous. I was not sure if I would be able to answer all the questions, and I was. So I think it varies a lot. I think that though, by the time it gets to the technical interviews, that's out of the fellowship's hands, because ultimately we as the fellowship can recommend to the host company, hey, we think this person would be a really good fit, but that decision is with the host company. They are the ones who give the final go or no go about applicants. So depending on where you end up getting placed or where you would like to get placed, the technical interviews will change, but that is exclusively with the host company. We don't have any involvement in the technical interviews.
And then I'll just jump in here and say that one of the benefits of the way that this fellowship matches you with a host company is that the technical interviews are very, very all over the place, but it's because the finalists are very all over the place. When I had my technical interview with OneWeb, it was because of a very small line item, like halfway down my resume. It wasn't because it matched up extremely well with a specific thing that they wanted to work on that summer. So it wasn't, they choose you. It's not like you're applying for an internship and you have to make sure that you fit exactly what the job requisition is. The host companies are offered a pool of fellows and they pick the people that they think would be a good match. So it's almost like a bit more intelligent than just cold calling applications. Alrighty, and y'all feel free to jump in whenever if you have something you think you could contribute to the question. What changes do you expect to the application and the overall program due to COVID-19? Hopefully none, but I mean, everything is super up in the air. We're playing it by ear, and I definitely think that even during the height of the pandemic this past summer, we were able to have a full class of fellows. Some were working remotely. Cadence Payne, who was a 2020 fellow, I chatted with her on Friday, and she said that her company, Millennium Space Systems, shipped her out an email or a laptop and all of the stuff she would need to work, and they were super accommodating to make sure that even though their interns were working remotely, that they felt supported and they gained meaningful experience over the summer. So the good news is the fellowship program and the team that runs it are rock stars, and if you end up becoming a MAT fellow, it's almost out of your hands at that point, and they'll take care of you to the best of their extent.
I want to say, so as a fellow that just went through the
2020
year, I'm not disappointed at all in how my fellowship experience went. I mean, I'm here on a Wednesday night trying to convince you all to apply because I loved it so much, even though I didn't get to do the in-person summit and the internship was remote and all this stuff. Definitely still worthwhile. And the biggest takeaway for me was, like Josh said, the MIFP team does an incredible job making sure that it's still an excellent experience, no matter the circumstances.
Alrighty. Y'all ready to move on? Take the stunned silence as a yes. Do graduate students have a different experience from undergraduate fellows? I think this goes back into what I said earlier with the pool of finalists. You get put into a role that you're qualified for and that you match up quite well with. So if you're a graduate student, you might get put into a graduate intern type role where you take on a bit more ownership and leadership in your activities. And that also varies company to company. Interns at SpaceX are notorious for basically running projects sometimes. Yeah, so it varies company to company, and the good news is you get they draw from your resume and your application to match you. So it's hyper specific. Alrighty. What? I apologize for my dog. What drew you to commercial space versus working at a government agency like NASA? I have a point of response to this, but I'll let if anybody else wants to jump in.
I can talk a little about this. So before being a Matt Fellow, I didn't have any experience in commercial space. I had previously interned at NASA, and I really enjoyed the work that I was doing, but I saw the amount of bureaucracy that was going on, and just, I think a lot of people can see a lot of what NASA is doing, and obviously they're doing amazing things, super cool research, but a lot of things just take a really long time sometimes. And so I think the main thing that drew me to a part of it was just wanting to try it out, seeing if I liked it, seeing if I preferred it over working at NASA. But I think the excitement was just seeing the amount that commercial space has grown in the last decade or so, and just what's been able to be accomplished by all the different commercial space companies.
Yeah, and I personally, I had my last internship before becoming a Matt Fellow was at NASA Ames, and I got burned basically. I pitched a program to bring back to school to basically fund my master's research, and it got the green light, but due to red tape that they had to go through to appropriate funds and things like that for the project, I missed the deadline at my school back at Georgia Tech to actually get a contract in place for that fall. So I had to scramble to find master's funding over the past or over the next 3 or 4 days. I was moving to Atlanta. I got a new apartment and everything, and didn't know if I had a job or not. So that kind of pushed me towards the side of space that tends to iterate a bit quicker and do things because they make financial sense, not because they have scientific merit. Just scientific merit. Yeah. Not bashing NASA at all. Okay. So what would you say to students who are looking to do research in industry? Anybody have any crazy or knee-jerk responses to that?
R&D is an important part of commercial spaceflight companies. Nearly all of them will have some form of R&D, and so if you want to do research in industry as opposed to for NASA or for a government agency or academia, I say go for it, and this fellowship is still applicable to you for sure.
Yeah, and I just chime in and say that once again, because the matching project process is so hyper specific, if you pitch yourself as somebody who would like to do advanced concepts type work, there have been numerous Matt Fellows that have been in I think Blue Origin's teams is advanced development projects.
Yeah, that was me this summer. Actually, I did a research internship.
Exactly.
I should have led with that.
But yeah, so there's divisions at most of these companies that do what's the next thing? What should we be doing in 5, 6 years, 10 years to keep being competitive? So that's the cool thing about commercial space, where there's actual competition for doing things. If money was no object, there'd be no reason to re-land rocket boosters, right? So yeah, there's definitely a lot of R&D and cutting edge work being done at all of these companies, and there's opportunities for fellows to actively contribute to those teams. Alrighty, this is actually kind of a cool question. As an applicant who may not seem the best on paper, what can I do to make myself a more desirable candidate for the fellowship? Anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I can take this. Or, okay. Sorry, did you want to go, Eric?
I've been talking too much. You go ahead.
I think I sort of had this experience as well, where when I was applying to fellowships, my GPA, when I was applying to internships, my GPA was below what their base cutoff was. And I remember writing in my cover letters, basically I know my GPA isn't as high as you want it, but like, I promise I'll do my best and work really hard. And I think like this fellowship, fellowship is really unique in that like we are looking for people who are hardworking and know their stuff, but are also looking for people who are really passionate. I know I kind of sound like a broken record with that, but I think to be a leader, you need to be willing to sort of like go outside of your comfort zone and like work as hard as you can and push the boundaries. And like, if you're passionate about doing that, I think that sort of thing comes through. That's when I was interviewing, I tried to talk a lot about why I wanted to be a part of this program and how I thought that it would make me better as like an engineer and someone who wanted to go into this industry. So that was my personal take on that. If someone else wants to contribute, please feel free.
Yeah, I definitely say that the passion's a big part of it, and showing that you may not have like the best GPA, but you might have had other experiences that show that you are willing to put in the work, and have like well-developed thoughts of where you'd like to be in 5-6 years. There's definitely ways you can present yourself. That's why the essays are there. It's not just to submit your resume and write a cover letter, maybe. The essays are mandatory, and it's the best way for the selection team to get to know you as a person outside of just what's on your resume.
Yeah, two of the most important parts of the application, the letters of rec and the personal statements, have nothing to do with your GPA. So I'd focus on those. Yeah,
definitely. And then I just want to say, y'all, we're going to be answering questions here for, I don't know, like eight-ish more minutes. So if you see something that's like midway down that you don't think we'll get to, that you really want answered, make sure to upvote it so it goes up to the top. But we'll keep chugging along here for a little bit. And then I just want to say, before we hit the end of time, that you can go ahead and contact apply at mattfellowship.com, matthewfellowship.org. Wow. If you have any specific questions about the application. Also, if you go to the website and click on any of the fellows or any of our faces, it goes to our LinkedIn profile. So I think I reached out to almost everybody that RSVP'd for this on LinkedIn personally. So if you want to ask questions, I'll put you in touch with a fellow that can answer it, or I'll try to answer it myself. But for the next question, what typical backgrounds do fellows have? I mean, I'd say outside of the eligibility, it's outside of like the things that you absolutely have to apply. It's kind of all over the place. There's fellows that are at tiny. Oh man, I apologize for that. Does somebody else want to answer this real quick?
Yeah, I would say I would say that beyond the eligibility, as Josh was saying, I would not say there's like a typical background. Like everyone works in, or everyone has studied something, science, engineering, in that general realm. But other than that, like there's a super diverse range of interest. I remember one of the fellows who was in our class, his name was Kai, and he was working with dirigible flight, which was something that I had literally never even thought about before. For people who don't know, dirigibles are like balloons. They're things that are lighter than air. And so he had like a project team at school that he was working on with it. And like I had never been involved in anything like that. So it was super interesting to hear about. So in terms of interests, there's a really diverse range of interests, really diverse range of hobbies. Like I rode in college, and I know one of the other fellows also rode, but people like I know some fellows have been getting together to do like socially distant hiking and stuff. So I would argue that there's no like typical background for the fellows beyond, as Josh was saying, just like what you need to do to be eligible for the program.
And I think that diversity is actually what makes you like a good applicant, is showing that like, hey, I go to class every day and I study this, but in my spare time I do this, or when I'm on the weekends I make sure to go out and do X, Y, and Z. It shows that you are able to operate at a higher capacity than just going to school, going home, and doing your homework. And then I noticed that all of you are finally responding to my LinkedIn requests now that I mentioned it. So good on you for that. Already answer live. How COVID affect? Hopefully we answered that. I find it interesting that there's only one Black executive mentor. So that is an issue in our industry, that there are many groups that are actively trying to solve that. The aerospace industry is incredibly white and incredibly male. So there's, I don't know if Nina, you want to speak a bit about Brooke Owens, but it's definitely an issue that's recognized and that is actively trying to be solved. But yeah, it's a volunteer position, so it's definitely like it's a function of the people that are asked and the people that are able to that accept. Alrighty. Boo-boo. If you apply for the Brooke Owens program, can you still apply for the Matthew Isakowitz program? Definitely. You definitely can do both.
Yes.
I mean, not in the same summer. Obviously, you can't do both fellowships, but you can definitely apply for both. And Nina actually has done both. So, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the applying this year, the timelines won't overlap as much as they did in previous years, so you can definitely apply to both of them. And I would say in any interviews that you have with the two programs, be super upfront about if you've applied for the other one, which one you're more interested in, and all of that. And they definitely work to they work to make sure that if you're a good candidate, you'll end up in a place that makes sense.
And then for those who don't know, the Brooke Owens Fellowship is was founded in memory of Dawn Brooke Owens, and they have one more class than the Matthew Isakowitz Fellowship Program. They started in 2017, and both fellowship programs are very similar in structure, but their fellowship, the eligibility is all undergraduate, but for all undergraduate, all majors, but for women and gender minority students. So they tend to have a bit of overlap in there's a certain demographic that is able to apply for both. And we've had numerous Matt fellows who are also brookies in different summers. Answered live. Alrighty, we got time for probably one more before we wrap up. Do you get assigned to an internship and mentor, or do you choose them? So this is, you don't get to choose them straightforward. Like, you don't get to say, hey, I want to work at SpaceX, and if I'm not hosted or matched with SpaceX, I don't want to be in the fellowship. You don't get to choose like that, and you also don't get to choose like they don't give you like a bunch of different options and you have to pick one. It's more of on the first essay prompt, if you've noticed on the website, you get to say what type of company you would like to work at, what area of the industry, what size, what culture sort of deal. So you get to give a preference, but it's kind of like the sorting hat in Harry Potter. Like you get to provide input, but they definitely look at your whole application, and it's like an individual match with the host company and mentor. And very, very large props to the administrative team. They do a wonderful job at that. Alrighty.
I'll just say that I mean, there's a ton of questions still, and we're obviously not going to get to them. I tried to answer, some of us answered a bunch of them typing. So if you don't see your question anymore, look at the answered ones. We might have answered it. Mm-hmm. But if not, I just posted in the chat, again, that email, apply@matthewfellowship.org. If your question went unanswered, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll get you an answer.
And then, yeah, we'll wrap up here with that information. On almost all social media platforms, it's @MattFellowship or #MattFellowship. If you want individualized support, I've recommended this a million times, but feel free to reach out to fellows on social media. A lot of us are very, very interested in helping prospective applicants. So go find them on Twitter, find them on LinkedIn. Just say, hey, I'm a prospective Matt Fellow. Can you give me any tips, or can you talk about your experience? A lot of us spend a good amount of time talking to prospective applicants, and we love to talk about the program. So don't feel like you're being an annoyance. Definitely go out and ask. Does anybody else have any closing thoughts?
Thank you for coming and spending your Wednesday night with us. We really look forward to getting to know the next class. And yeah, just to reiterate, like, feel free to reach out to any of us personally. If there's anything we can do to help, we are thrilled to. So.
Yay, awesome. Go apply right now. Just go do it.
It's an awesome program.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And I look forward to hopefully some of you being in next year's class and come join our family and come play video games and go hiking with us.
And change the space industry.
Alrighty, thank you so much for coming. Go ahead and stop share.